Get started. Welcome. Thank you for joining me for Coffee with the Mayor on January 12th. Thank you to the Senior Center for hosting us. Laura is setting us up with the coffee in the room. If you need anything, let us know. There's a few more chairs available. We can bring them out as people come in. And I'll just go through some slides. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand or interrupt me. And then we have other people in the room that are guests that might want to introduce themselves as we go through here today. So first thing I'll start with is elections. Elections are going to be in April, and currently we have 4 aldermanic districts, and all 4 alders have decided to run for re-election, and they're all running unopposed. I'm also up for re-election, and I'm running unopposed as well. And then we also have a Dane County Board Representative, Mike Engelberger, who's running unopposed. So good news is we have candidates. Bad news is there's no challengers, but I'm not really sure what that means, but it is what it is. So more than likely, I think there's going to be a primary in February. There's a judge's race that I think has 3 candidates in it. So you can look for that. And as we get closer, the clerk will put out some information. If anybody's interested in helping with the polls, we can certainly get you involved with the clerk. I know some of the people in the room have worked the polls in the past. We appreciate that. Everybody seems to have a good time with it. It's a good experience. This slide here is talking about Civic Plus. What we try to do is every few years we try to update our website and make things more user-friendly. We do that every so often, and this is a program that's out there right now that we're exploring that will make things a little bit more efficient when we enter our information onto our website, and then the information we use for our meetings. And it's kind of a one-stop shop. So the newer programs kind of work together. So if you put it in one area, it also fills in another area on the website, so we don't have to spend so much time putting in things manually. So that's what Civic Plus is all about. You'll probably be hearing more of that as we get into the implementation phase. This here is some projections that I received from Dane County. So Dane County has been working on population trends, and they have an organization that they call CARPC, which is the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission. And CARPC typically works on stormwater management plans. So when we do a subdivision, we have to put in a big pond to make sure that the new homes that go in there don't flood. But they also do land management and kind of planning for the county. And so what they've done is they've taken some projections from Dane County, and then they've kind of done some of their own projections based on really what's kind of happening on the ground right now. And you can see that as we get up here to 2000, this is the projections that Dane County had, but the CARPC projections are exceeding them. We're actually seeing more people moving into Dane County than Dane County anticipated. So the reason they do these slides is so we can kind of work on some future planning. And this is some of the assumptions that they used when they did their calculations. You can see it's based on population, people coming here, jobs, all sorts of things that they put in there, and then they have it all color-coded. So the bottom line is that we're looking at having higher projections here in Dane County than maybe Dane County even realized. So we're trying to get prepared for that, especially in the Madison area, because transportation, housing, daycare, those are all big issues here. And then this kind of breaks down, you know, kind of the development, where it's going. And a lot of it is coming, there's different rings that they put in. So the green is kind of the central ring, which is Madison, so that's the biggest one. And then there's an outside ring, an outlying ring, and then all towns. And we kind of fall into the outlying ring. Well, what we're seeing is a lot of the growth that's happening is starting to expand out into the suburbs. And as I've mentioned in the past, Stoughton has had record growth 3 of the last 4 years. And that would include commercial buildings, apartments, single-family homes, and duplexes, which is good for us because it provides opportunities for our school district, for students, provides jobs for our employers, customers, for our businesses, as well as revenue for the city for our tax base. Some of the things that we're working on right now, I wanted to highlight. Usually in the wintertime, there's not a whole lot going on with the development. People are getting ready for the spring. So this is a picture of the inside of the Opera House. Has everyone been to the Opera House? Most of you? So several years ago, we moved City Hall offices from the Opera House into the bank that was donated to us. And then we repurposed what used to be offices. This was a finance area here. And what we've done recently is there was a wall that was right here. That was a little office. And they took that out so they could create a space here so the Opera House could sell merchandise, so they could have more revenue coming in. The city supports Opera House at about $200,000 a year toward the budget. So they're always looking for ways to come up with more revenue. They partner with the Friends of the Stoughton Opera House Association, also known as SOFA. And what they've done is they've raised the money to do the remodeling. So they've done this area a couple times now where they've expanded it, as well as some improvements in the theater with speakers, lighting, railings, ramps, all sorts of different features. So we're really excited about the rest of the coming schedule. Starts in February, will be the next show, February 1st. And this area should be ready, and they'll be selling merchandise. In this area here, you can also get beverages and cookies while you're at the show. This is just another angle of it, so it gives you a little bit better shot of how much room. Also creates more floor space. There is entertainment, and there's a lounge right next to it. There is entertainment at the lounge, usually from 6 to 7 before the show. And this gives us some more standing room only for the lounge acts. This is a picture of a potentially new daycare that would be open. And this is at the site of the Quick Trip over by Roby Road, the one that used to be Open Pantry. So there's Viking Day Camp. They're currently located in the Macomb Plaza. They have several units there in the strip mall, and they're looking at purchasing that building, adding on a section on the left there, adding some colors to it and putting the daycare there. So this is something that will be at the Plan Commission. We're going to discuss this tonight. And this is kind of an overhead view of it. So this is 51 Roundabout, Roby Road. Deeks is over here. This is the gas station that was here, and then they would add on this section here. This is a building out in the business park that went up for sale a couple months ago. And it was an office building, and the realtor had reached out to me and said, hey, I have this building I'm trying to sell. If you have anybody who might be interested. So I sent them about a half a dozen leads, and one of them was Eldon Homes, and they were able to work out a deal. So Eldon Homes is going to purchase this building, and I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do, but I assume they're going to move some of their offices there. They also have the building down here in Keegan's Plaza, and they've been looking for more space for setting up like their for their cabinets and for the other items that they put in their homes, some more display areas. So I think that they'll probably move at least some of their offices out here, if not some of the other things. So I'm kind of waiting to see kind of what the long-term plan is. But so this building here, it's nice to see it being utilized. I hate to see empty buildings in Stoughton, so anytime I see something for sale, I try to work with the realtors to help them find somebody to either purchase it or rent it. Stoughton Family Dental, which is across the street, they're in the process of expanding. They have a dentist office right here. They've been remodeling here. It looks like it's either completed or nearly completed. They want to hire another dentist for that building. The business has grown over the years. We're also trying to work out a plan to develop and put housing up here. This used to be a hotel back in the day. It's really dated and aged. There was actually remnants of a fire from back when, and there's some old plumbing, and it really just needs to be gutted and redone. So we're working with some potential developers to try to come up with some funding sources to help this thing get to the finish line. We've had 2 or 3 different people take a look at it. So far, nobody's been able to make the numbers come out. We have some incentives that we've set up that might help with that. We have created a downtown tax incremental finance district, which could offset some of the gap, with the idea being is the new value that's created in the upstairs, that tax base would help pay off whatever debt would be incurred to fix it. So we're working with the developers on that. We have a revolving loan fund I'm going to talk about after I'm done here today with our finance department to see if we can free up some money from that fund to help close the gap, and then find out when we meet with the developers exactly what their financial gap is in order to make that project happen. It's nice to have downtown housing that's walkable and bikeable to the businesses and workplaces, so we'll see if we can make something happen there. But recently we did the one over here on Water Street, and that turned out pretty nice. That was 17 units. This one would probably be about a dozen. Also, Stoughton Veterinary, they're going to be moving. They're putting a building out just beyond where the Church's Chicken is there, between there and the apartments. There's a house and a lot there. So their current building is up for sale, and they're in the process of building the new one. And this is kind of what it's going to look like. And that one should be done probably in the next few months or so. They're moving along pretty quickly. They've got it pretty well framed out, and they just needed more space to expand their business. This is a picture of the depot. So this is where the Chamber of Commerce was. Currently they're in City Hall. And then also the Historical Society. Historical Society is still, they're actually having a meeting, I think later on this week, to decide if they're going to add on to a building or build another building to house the rest of their artifacts. Currently, things that were in here have been moved or sold or in storage. And in the meantime, the Depot Hill group has been in the process of remodeling the building. I was in there a couple weekends ago. The inside's turning out really nice. We've done the floors, some of the walls. They have doors and windows that they're preparing to put on the outside of the building. And they're hoping that this building will be open in February, and that'll be kind of like an artist gathering spot and a gallery in there. And then they're in the process of trying to acquire some other buildings in the downtown area to create more of an artsy district. There's been a lot more promotions going on with Able Contemporary and with Brand Inspired, and we're hoping that this will be part of that partnership. Out on Macomb Road, this is a concept plan that we received. We haven't really even sat down with the developer yet, but you can see that the highway would be over here, and then there's a strip of land here that they would like to develop. Right now it's a bunch of trees. Actually, the highway is over here, I'm sorry. Strip of land here, it's all the trees here, and then the Macomb Plaza is down this way. So they're looking at possibly putting in some apartments there. We have a long ways to go. Typically what we do is we get these concept plans, and then we meet with our, what we call our TAC team, which is our department heads, and we sit down and we review the plan, and we look for things like, is it meeting our zoning codes as far as density? Are they meeting the setback requirements for spacing between the buildings and the lot lines? Is the road that's going in there within our guidelines for a cul-de-sac? Can a fire truck turn around in there? Is it going to be easy for us to plow snow? Those types of things. So this is just a preliminary concept. I'm sure this will change a lot. It may not even happen, but periodically we get people kind of kicking the tire, and this is one that came in here in the last couple of weeks that we'll be probably talking about here shortly. And then this is another one that we've been talking about for years. This is out kind of by Page Street and Highway B. So if you look at this, Page Street is right here, Highway B is here. Mr. Arnett's looking at trying to finish this off at some point. There again, we have a long ways to go. He has to submit a stormwater management plan to CARP-C in order to serve that site. There's some questions about how to handle the wastewater. The wastewater, typically what we try to do is we try to have a system that works on gravity. If not, they have to put in a lift station or a pump station to pump all the sewage, which typically costs a lot more money. So we're trying to work with him on those types of issues as part of that stormwater management plan and planning for that site, so we can get the rest of those units completed. All right. One thing, the committees have been really busy. This is a good time for them to get some work done. So as I mentioned earlier, we're working on elections. And I see one of our other elected officials is here in the back, Mr. Udell. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you, Mayor.
Yeah, he's one of our representatives at the state level, so if you have any questions for him afterward, hopefully you can stick around.
I won't be able to. I had a few minutes to stop in
Okay.
and listen. But
all right. Anything you want to say?
No, nothing. You know where to point them if they have questions.
Okay.
I'll leave my cards behind as well.
Excellent. So one of the things we've been doing is anticipation of the elections is we have a committee called Community Affairs Council Policy. So they work on the rules for the city council on which we operate under in our ordinances and our policies. And they're working on putting together kind of an orientation manual for new alders or even existing alders. And one of the things we're trying to do is put together materials so everybody that is onboarded or wants to even consider running would understand like the terminology and the process and where to get information and kind of how it all works. And you can see like updating our committees. We have probably, I don't know, 30 some committees. I think I counted at one point, almost 40. And about half of them were outlined in our ordinances, what their roles and responsibilities were. And the other half were not. So the committee's been working on getting all the ordinances updated in the ordinances on our website. So they've got about half of them done, and now we're going back to the original ones and updating that language so we have consistent, clear language so the average person can really understand what those roles and responsibilities are and how often they meet and those sort of things. So the committee's working on that. And then we have another committee, public safety. Quite often we get requests for parking changes, whether it's ADA parking or no parking, or stop signs, or speed limits. So what they're doing there, they're in the process of developing a form. So if a community member or a city council member wants to change one of them, they would complete the form. So when we go to the committee, we can notify the neighbors that this is going to be a topic of discussion. They can go through and understand who requested the change, what the rationale was before they begin having their deliberation. Because often what happens now is you have one person in the community that complains about something to an alder puts it on the agenda, you get at the meeting, you may or may not take action, all the other neighbors that weren't there are, wait a minute, we don't want that. Nobody told us this was going on. So we're trying to improve our communication at our committee meetings and get more community feedback. So this is one that has not been approved yet, but it's something that's under consideration at the Public Safety Committee. And we may end up using something like this for the other committees as well, because we certainly want more community engagement on the front end than on the back end. It's a lot easier. Otherwise, you end up changing something and changing it back, and it causes a lot of heartache and confusion, and we try to avoid that whenever we can. Okay, Stoughton Trailers Community Park. This is something the Park and Rec Committee has been working on. So most of you probably have seen that Stoughton Trailers has built a new headquarters. They're operational. They're in the process of selling single-family lots. There's some apartments that are being built out there that I've talked about in the past. And then there's this 30-plus acre park area. So initially, we hired a company to do kind of a feasibility study of the region to understand not only Stoughton, but outside of Stoughton, what our greatest needs are. And one of the things that came up was we have a lack of soccer fields or large playing fields here in Stoughton. And the ones that we have are kind of scattered all over town. And there's a preference by the youth organizations, especially softball or flag football or baseball. If you can have everything on one site, it makes it a lot more efficient to run tournaments and get people to town and have them not get lost trying to go from one place to another to find a diamond or a field. So that was the first study we did, and then that kind of gave us some ideas. And then we hired a company, MSA, they do engineering for us, to do a master plan for that park. And the way the master plan works is they do public participation, which will include surveys, focus groups, to try to gather feedback from community members and stakeholders, and then try to put the ideas in a plan. And then eventually, our job would be to implement whatever the city council approves for the plan. So I think this one here was kind of basically the one that was endorsed. They're not fully completed with it, but this is kind of the main one they were looking at. And you can see all the fields. Now these fields here are set up for different age groups. You could combine them and have larger fields depending on what age group is playing, if it's under 10 or 12 or adults or whatever. And then they wanted to have kind of some open areas where they could do basketball, or they could have pickleball or some other things, and parking, landscape, and the trail system. And then they kind of reserved a spot in case at some point we decide to do something different with the aquatic center. All this costs a lot of money. The way the parks work is when a developer builds, they're required to give us so much land based on how many units of homes that they're building. In this particular area, they gave us about twice as much land than they would be required because they wanted to have a big park out there. They also give us what we call an impact fee. An impact fee is based on how many units there are. So based on the number of apartments and single-family homes and duplexes that would be built here, we'll probably have about $1 million to work with to start implementing the amenities for the park. $1 million isn't going to get us very far. Probably get us some shelter, bathrooms, maybe another feature. So one of the charges of the committee is going to have to be is not only to approve the master plan, but to come up with a phasing plan to prioritize it, because we take the $1 million and we do what we want with that, but after that we have to have a plan. And I think what I would be looking at is trying to do some fundraising to try to keep it off the tax roll. Otherwise we'd have to borrow a lot of money to finish off the project, and especially if there is a desire to move forward at some point with the aquatic center. And I think that'll be a whole separate conversation. But at least for the initial park, what I've instructed them to do is get the master plan done, get it all costed out, prioritize it, and then figure out what you want to do as far as trying to fund the improvements to get it implemented. But the first priority will be the soccer fields. Getting the grass established takes a couple of years, so we want to get everything graded and seeded out there, and then we'll work around that. I mean, the parking will have to go in, and then the trail system will go in as part of all that, and then from there we'll see what goes first, if it's a shelter or some of the courts or just some of the open spaces. So that's basically how that's going to work out there. That'll probably be a several-year-long process. And I know Stoughton Trailers is really interested in participating in that conversation. The River Park, this is a lot, but this basically is information I got last week from the DNR, and we're still working on putting some features in the river. There's a couple of downstream features that we're expecting to have a public hearing on here, hopefully first quarter of the year, so we can put in some rock structures that will help the fishing and the water flow and the aesthetics down below the dam. And then these are some of the things that the DNR has to consider as they issue these permits. So we're working with DNR engineers, or working with our engineers to get this stuff all approved to their satisfaction. All right, I had a card here somebody left me with questions on it. And then talk about the wall. I'm assuming it's the retaining wall. I don't know who left the questions. So if that's in fact what it is, so as part of the DOT road construction, there's a retaining wall down here by the fire department. So this project is all part of the DOT. And so the city's not paying for any of that work that's down there. That's part of the state's program. There has been hiccups down there getting that wall completed. They had a crew down there, and quite honestly, the subcontractor didn't perform at the level that the DOT anticipated. So they had like 30-some of these big metal pillars to put into the ground. They had to pound them into the ground, drill them and pound them in there. And at one point, they were probably 3/4 of the way through the summer and they only had 7 of them in. So the DOT came and they brought in a different crew and they were able to get all the pillars in, but they weren't able to complete the wall. So what's going to happen is right now it's temporary, it's set temporary to prevent any erosion from happening, but they have to come back in the spring. They'll have to reclose the road for several weeks to finish putting the material into the wall to get that completed, which has been really frustrating for the business owners down there. There's not much we can do. A lot of it, like I said, was the crew didn't deliver, the subcontractors. DOT will, deal with them. For us, what we've been trying to do is really just communicate with the business owners, update the maps, working with the chamber to make sure everybody understands where the detours are so we can get this thing completed and get on to the next project, which they'll be doing the west side of the city this year yet, including adding 2 more roundabouts, adding some more lanes heading toward McFarland, which is all necessary and all needs to be done. But I think the bulk of the question was who owns the wall? That would be the DOT's responsibility, their responsibility to finish it. There's something here about the car dealer. The car dealer is fine. I mean, he can stay as long as he wants. I know it's impacted him. He's talking to the DOT about possible damages to the parking lot. They've assured him that any damages that occurred to his property from storing or operating heavy equipment would be fixed at the DOT's cost. So that was a conversation that went on last week. So I think that's going to be all good. It's just going to take some time.
Is the wall just going to be concrete?
Yeah, it's basically, I forget what the term that they call it, but it's basically like a mast that they put in sections.
Oh.
It's kind of similar, I think, to what you see on the interstate.
So it'll look like big blocks?
Yeah, I think that's what it'll look like. I don't know if they've even picked out the colors yet.
Okay.
But yeah, it'll be a project, but they'll get them set in there. They've got everything framed out for it. They just need more time to, probably 4 to 6 weeks is what they're talking. And then on the one side, they got all the sidewalks in. On the other side, they just filled in the blacktop. It's pretty rough down there. It's not ideal, but they just ran out of time when the weather got cold around Christmas. They couldn't finish the cement, so they put blacktop in there temporarily. They'll take that out in the spring and put in the cement, and then it'll be good to go. All right, any other questions? So there's a group here that wants to introduce themselves. I'll let them do that, and then they can talk for a little while, and then if you have any questions after that, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. My name is Brandy Martin. I am one of the corporate supports from a psychiatric medical care based out of Nashville, Tennessee. We partner with hospitals in rural communities such as Stoughton Hospital to operate and manage their geriatric behavior support program. We have been in existence for about 25 years. We have partnerships throughout the United States. Currently, we partner in about 40 states and about 180 hospital partnerships. The reason we are here in this area is because every 3 years, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid does a community health needs assessment. And the community health needs assessment is very important where community members and professional leaders get together and talk about things that are most important within your community, things that you would like to see improvements on. And one of the improvements that many people in the community has talked about was the mental health support for seniors and resources for seniors, elders being 65 and older. And so we heard the needs, and so we're here. Our program is at Stoughton is called Senior Life Solutions. And we are open, officially open, and if you have any questions, you could talk to myself here at the table, but I did want to introduce the rest of the team as well. My role is essentially to get the program up and going and make sure that we're visible out in the community. But I'm here from a corporate perspective periodically once a quarter or so. So I have here with me our program director, Emily Breckenridge, and the program therapist, her name is Deanna. Now, what you will hear from them, they would talk about the inner workings of our program. We work in tandem with the psychiatrist and the hospital. Our program is involuntary program. It's group led, about 3 days a week, and it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from about 9 a.m. to about noon. We serve lunch as well, and this program is paid for by traditional Medicare with a supplemental insurance. So there's no out-of-pocket cost associated with the program if whomever is interested. It could be yourself or family members, a neighbor, but just we want to get the word out and offer that support. Also, another thing to take note of, the psychiatrist, we have once a month, the participants of our program will be seen by a psychiatrist. And as needed, we do family therapy as well as the individual therapy, but group therapy is no more than 10 individuals getting together and talking about things that really matter. It is facilitated and very structured by our program therapist, Deanna. She'll talk to you about that as well. But thank you so much for allowing me, Mr. Mayor, to speak, and I will give it over to the rest of the team. There you are, Emily. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, you can get up and, yeah. Okay.
So Brady kind of hit everything with what she said about our program. It's 3 days a week. With our therapists, and every week we'll also have a nursing group that goes over different things. So you kind of hit everything.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Where is it located?
It's in the hospital. Do you know where the ER is? So if you turn right, like if you were going to registration and kept walking down kind of towards HR, that room with the glass is where our group room is.
Thank you. And I will add, who benefits from, I know that's a burning question that some people are maybe thinking, who benefits from this program? Well, the people who benefit from the program are those that has recently lost a loved one or going through grieving, also needing help to understand a new medical diagnosis, or having trouble sleeping, and most importantly, what we see in most northern states is our elderly have go through loneliness, and loneliness is a big indicator of why it's important to know that we're here to support you all. And you don't have to grieve and be lonely, be alone. We want to be able to support you and offer you all what you need. Okay, here is that therapist.
Okay, how we do groups is the first one in the morning after the participants come in, they will see the nurse will take their vitals, and about once a month, our nurse also will check like for fall risk and things like that. But you come into our group at 9 in the morning, and we just kind of do a support. for the first group session. So this is like anybody who's struggling. I will do a check-in with each group member in the group, and we provide support to that person that's struggling in the group. The second group is a skill-based group, and then the third is how we're going to use this skill to benefit ourselves. We do treatment plans every 2 weeks. As Brandy said, we also have individual and family sessions available as well. We do a really good job with discharging people. We make sure that people are connected to community resources. We talk about discharge from day one. At least once a week, participants are going to hear me say, now this would be a good skill to put in your toolbox, so when you're ready to discharge, you will have it. Way we discharge, yes.
You're talking about discharge, does that mean this is an inpatient program?
No, it's an outpatient program, but we discharge from outpatients when a person is ready to discharge, and so we will have that person connected to all kinds of resources in the community. But we don't stop there. We follow up 1 week, 4 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, and a year after someone is discharged, because a lot can happen during that time. At any point in time, a person wants to come back into the program, they can say, hey, you know, my best friend died, I'm having grief issues, I'd like to come back in and get more group support. They are able to do that.
Can you talk about the duration of the program?
Sure. The duration of the program basically depends on one's individual needs. So some people might get through the program in 3 months. Another person might be 2 years. It just depends. Any other questions? Yes.
So if someone decided, this sounds like a great program for me, I'd like to do it,
Uh-huh.
came in, Medicare covers it?
Medicare Part A and B and a supplemental insurance. And we do check insurances at least monthly because things can change. We don't ever want to see anyone get hit with a bill. So that's the nice thing about our program.
So it's automatic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So do you have to have a referral?
You
From
do
physician?
not need a doctor referral. That's the other thing that's really unique about our program. You can self-refer. You can be a family member and just let us know who you want us to contact and give us information. And we'll contact that person, explain what the program's about, see if they want to come in and do an intake with us. So we do an intake before someone comes into our program, and this is just to make sure that, you know, you are appropriate for the program. We do take people with dementia, but you have to have a certain rating that's high enough on the mini mental status exam. Because we do take people with dementia, but we want to make sure that it's not so advanced that they're lost in the group, and the group is actually anxiety provoking versus helpful. Any other questions?
Is this, do you ever do home visits for this?
We can for the intake, we don't for groups. However, we do also offer telehealth. So you could, if you're handy with a computer, come to group via telehealth as well. Any other questions? Okay, I will give it back to the mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. That was really interesting. I didn't know that you had that program, so it's awesome.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for me today? No? None? Sure.
What day are we doing?
I think we're going to try to stick with this day. Hopefully this works. Fridays have been really convoluted here lately. And
So the second Monday?
yeah, if that works out for everybody, we'll try to make it consistent. I know it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but we have a nice crowd today, so hopefully this is a sign that this day will work. Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier that one of the goals is to improve the communication between the council and the community.
Yes, sir.
The last time I was here, I said, I think the communication has not been good on the Man Park project. And with that causes speculation, gossip, rumors, and resistance to the whole thing, based on no facts, or few facts. And now there's a building going up down there. What is that? And let's see, the other thing is, I've heard about rafting and tubing stuff. Is that, what's the status of the building and the rafting and tubing?
So there's a few things going on down there. There's multiple projects. So the building is part of the Man Park Master Plan. So that plan really was including the moving the grandstand, redoing the parking lot, doing some of the riverbank work and some of the trail work that has just recently been completed. So the building is a shelter. There was a shelter that was kind of back behind the Man Center, and it's an area over by Troll Beach where the ground is extremely wet. And we removed it because, quite honestly, it really just wasn't usable or safe anymore. And there was a desire when we approved the Man Park Master Plan to have a new shelter and bathrooms located out on that end of the park. So if people are down there pickleballing, or people are walking down on the trail, or people are there for the fair, there's an alternative restroom outdoors for them, as well as if they want to rent a shelter for an event, that they can do that. So that's what the building is. The building is a shelter with restrooms, and I believe that they might put some playground equipment there too. We'll see how the budget comes out on that. So that's what's going on there. The water and the rafting, that is a separate project, and as I mentioned earlier, we're currently working on the 2 downstream permits, and what those will do is those will put in some rock features. There's already been a couple that have been approved and installed, and what it does is it creates a ripple effect, which allows better fish passage. It makes the water cleaner because the water is actually moving and it's not stagnant, so it drops the water temperature, so it's better for the ecology of the river. And then eventually, if we were to reconstruct the dam, that's where the rafting would come through, is that dam area. That is a separate approval process. We're not at that point yet. We have to get the downstream work completed, make sure that when that's completed, the engineering that they use for that is evaluated for what we want to do with reconstructing the dam. And then there's a whole separate process for the dam permit, because we have to change the water level order, because when we reconstruct the dam, the water level will go down at the dam, and we have to be able to demonstrate it's in the public interest to do that. So our position is it would be in the public interest to do that, because by lowering the water level on the dam, the water will flow more freely, which means the temperature will drop even more. It'll be good for the ecology. The fish will be able to swim upstream past the dam so they can spawn. We'll have a trail system that'll go through there, so there'll be more recreational use for people on bicycles and walking. And then the last part would be the ability to do rafting or kayaking, coming down the Yahara all the way through here, and then coming down where the dam is, and there would be a drop off there. Now, there will be some opposition. We know that. We've seen that in the past. They're concerned about the water level upstream. And one of the things that the DNR has been evaluating is the modeling that the engineers have done to determine exactly what that effect is. And on our website, there's videos, there's charts, there's all sorts of information that we put on there in the past that the DNR will confirm, that show that when we get up to what they call the bay on Highway B during normal water flow or normal seasons, based on the precipitation, the water level will drop 3 to 4 inches up there. As you get closer to the dam, the water level drops more. As you go upstream, it drops less. There's some years where, you have a drought, you'll have less water in the river. You have other years like this year where we had a lot of rain, the water level was higher, so it would maintain the flow that we would need for the people to raft. They have charts that they use that keep track of the water flows on a daily and hourly basis. And that data is used in order to do the engineering to make these decisions. So currently, the city council has been committed for probably almost 5 years now to complete the project. It's just been a really long road to travel with the DNR because quite honestly, they don't really have a process in place to do this type of a project. This would be one of the first ones of its kind in Wisconsin. And the codes that they use to make their determinations aren't really specific for this kind of project. So they're working in groups together to try to make sure that the fish people are okay with what the water people want and vice versa. So as we put this stuff together, we don't have any unintended consequences.
The other thing is there a plan to recoup some of the revenue that is being put into that project?
There's been some money collected already and more on the way for grant money to help offset some of the costs. So we've initially, when we put in the bridge and did some riverbank work, we got $500,000 from the state of Wisconsin through a WEDC grant. There's other stewardship grants that we've been accepted and we will get. I think the one is like $200 and some thousand. We'll get that once the project is, the downstream project is completed. They're not going to give us the money until the work is done. And there's other grants for the trail and some of the river work that we would apply for. There's conversations, Randy was here earlier, he's in the loop on it, about the future of the Stuart Knowles Stewardship Grant. That's typically where that money comes from. And a lot of that originates from the federal level and then trickles down to the state. So there's a little bit of uncertainty on the future grants and availability of that, but we know that we'll qualify for that. Beyond that, we could, if we decided to, and we haven't made any decision, if we find that this is going to be successful, we could get into the kayak rental business. Some locations in other states have done that and they found it to be lucrative. We're not so sure we're going to do that or not. Like I said, that decision hasn't been made yet. The other option could be there could be a private company that would do that, or maybe the city would have a space and we'd rent that space out and not manage it, just rent out the space to hold the kayaks and make some money that way to help offset the cost. The cost, once the work is done, the cost to maintain the river is really negligible. I mean, we have to do the same inspections that we do now on the dam and that sort of thing. But, you know, the rock structures are in place, assuming that they're not vandalized or anything like that. There wouldn't really be any additional long-term costs. And we think that the benefits is we'll have a cleaner river that'll get more usage than we do now. It's expensive, especially when you have multiple things going on there at once and it all adds up. But, you know, for years, we've done studies in the city on our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities. And the river has always been identified as an underused asset. And the city council recognizes that and they want to take advantage of that. We think it'll bring tourism to Stoughton if it's completed, which would be great for our downtown businesses, create revenue for them. Unfortunately, the way the state budget is set up, we don't collect any local sales tax. There is lobbying efforts going on to be able to do that because any sales tax that our businesses collect basically goes to the state. A small portion, 0.5% goes to the county. The city gets just a smidgen from the state through shared revenue. But that's been one of the challenges with our budget is the state has backed off over the years about the amount of shared revenue that cities and school districts get. So by them giving us less money, it's putting more pressure on the local taxpayers, and that's really the story that's not being told very well statewide. Is the reason your taxes are so high is because the state's sitting on $4 billion worth of money that we generated, and then they're giving us less money than they did years ago. Our costs continue to go up just like it does at home, and we're still trying to provide the same level or even better services that we have. So those are all things that we're working on because we are sensitive to property taxes as well. But we also know that people want to come visit, move to the communities that have nice amenities and features, and And when we're in Dane County, especially the way we're growing, we're really competitive with other municipalities. And we want to make sure we get our share of people that want to come to Stoughton and go to our schools and shop here. Any other questions? Did I answer your question? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, appreciate it. Yes?
So with that same area, so then is there, I know it's changed over a few years because of different things, but is there going to be anything where people would be able to sit and eat and drink?
Yeah, so if you were to go down there now, they put in, where the roadway was next to the river, there's a trail there, and they have what they call little nodes. So they're little like picnic areas, so you can fish there, you could have a picnic there, or you could just hang out there. They're ADA accessible, plus there's steps as well, so there's steps and ramps that'll take you right down to the river. And there's gonna be some on both sides, so once they start working on the other side, there's some over there as well. So anybody can enjoy that, plus there'll also be kayak lodges down there that'll be ADA accessible as well. So we really try to do this in a way where anybody that wants to enjoy the view or the recreation down the river can do that. It's been one of our initiatives, and even when we're looking at these master plans for like Stoughton trailers, everything we're doing involves making things ADA accessible, which increases the price, but it's the right thing to do. So that's the direction that we've decided to take. We also have, as part of the grant down there, we have solar panels, so the lighting will be, basically the electricity will be free once we start lighting it up down there. So we're always looking at ways to keep our operational costs down as well. Any other questions? All right, thanks again for being here today. It's good to see you all again, and enjoy the nice weather.
Thank you.